Third-party vendors often represent one of the largest sources of privacy and security risk. Regulators are increasingly holding organizations accountable for the actions of their vendors and service providers, making third-party oversight a core compliance requirement. A robust, a robust vendor risk management program, including due diligence, data processing agreements, data protection impact assessments, and ongoing monitoring, is critical, particularly when engaging AI vendors or other high-risk service providers. Third parties are organizations to which business functions or services have been outsourced. While operational responsibility may shift, legal accountability does not. Organizations remain responsible for the personal data they collect and process, regardless of whether that data resides or where that data resides or who handles it on their behalf. Effective risk management begins with strong contractual controls. Vendor agreements must impose privacy, security, and compliance obligations that mirror and, where appropriate, exceed the organization's own regulatory requirements. These contracts should address data handling standards, security controls, incident notification timelines, audit rights, and restrictions on subcontracting. Many high-profile data breaches have originated through third-party relationships, including incidences involving retailers, software providers, and managed service provider partners. Events such as Target and Home Depot breaches, as well as supply chain compromises like SolarWinds, demonstrate how vendor weakness can quickly become enterprise-wide crisis. These incidences underscore the need to evaluate supply chain dependencies and third-party integrations as part of enterprise risk management. Vendor risk must be continuously identified, assessed, and mitigated through governance, monitoring, and accountability mechanisms. Why third-party risk is a board-level privacy issue. Most material privacy failures no longer originate inside the enterprise. They occur through vendors, processors, sub-processors, SaaS tools, data brokers, and service providers that touch personal data outside the direct operational control of the organization. Regulators increasingly view third-party risk as a governance failure rather than a technical one. Across jurisdictions, the core regulator expectation is consistent. You can outsource processing, but not accountability. Legal reality. Controllers remain on the hook. 1. Accountability does not transfer under GDPR, LGPD, or any other international framework. Emerging U.S. state laws, data controllers, or businesses under the California Data Privacy Rights Act remain legally responsible for lawful processing, purpose limitation, data minimization, security, and data subject rights fulfillment. Vendors are typically classified as processors, service processors, sub-processors, or increasingly problematic independent controllers. If a vendor misuses data, regulators will first ask, why was the vendor selected? What due diligence was performed? What controls were contractually and operationally enforced? That's important to take note. Key risk domains executives should track. Data use creep. Vendors frequently expand data use beyond the original purpose for product improvements, AI training, analytics, aggregation, or cross-client benchmarking. It's a red flag if any vendor that if the vendors do not or cannot clearly and contractually limit data use to your documented processes. Sub-processor sprawl. Modern vendors rely on dozens, sometimes hundreds of sub-processors. Regulatory risk arises when sub-processors are not disclosed or updated. Consent or notice obligations are missed. Data flows cross borders without valid transfer mechanisms. Best practice, treat sub-processor approval as a living governance process, not a checkbox at contract signature. Cross-border transfer exposure. International data transfers remain one of the highest enforcement risk areas. Executives should know where data actually resides and is accessed from, whether SCCs, IDTAs, or equivalent mechanisms are in place, whether transfer impact assessments are realistic or purely formal. Key insight, regulators are increasingly testing whether TIAs reflect actual surveillance and access risk rather than a templated legal language. Security failures are still privacy failures. Security incidences at vendors trigger breach notification obligations, regulatory scrutiny of vendor oversight, contractual disputes, and indemnity battles. Regulators now can expect risk-based security assessments, ongoing monitor, not the one-time questionnaires, alignment between vendor risk tiers, and control rigor. AI and automated processing risk. Vendors increasingly embed AI into customer support, fraud detection, marketing, HR recruitment, and the privacy risks include, or associated with that, undisclosed automated decision-making, inability to explain processing logic, secondary use of personal data for model training. Takeaways, if a vendor uses AI, you should assume elevated DPIA and transparency obligations unless proven otherwise. What regulators expect to see in practice is a risk-based vendor segmentation. Not all vendors are equal. Regulators expect differentiation based on data sensitivity, volume, processing purpose, access level, geographic exposure, and high-risk vendors should receive deeper due diligence, stronger contractual controls, and ongoing reassessments. Contracts that reflect reality. Data processing agreements must match actual data flows, clearly prohibit unauthorized reuse, address sub-processors' controls, include enforceable audit and termination rights. A common failure, beautiful DPAs that don't reflect how the vendor actually operates or data flows move through your organization. Continuous oversight, not annual reviews. Leading authorities now view vendor risk as dynamic. Business model changes, data use evolves, vendors and sub-processors quietly move in and out. Static assessments are increasingly seen as insufficient. Keep your policies liquid. Evidence of governance. During investigations, regulators look for documented vendor risk decisions, escalation pathways, executive involvement in high-risk approvals, alignment between privacy, security, procurement, and legal teams. This is less about perfection and more about demonstrable, reasoned control. Strategic takeaways. Third-party risk is no longer a procurement or IT issue. It is an enterprise risk management issue. Regulators punish passive reliance on vendors. Strong contracts without operational oversight provide limited protection. AI-driven vendors materially increase privacy exposure. The question is no longer, did we have a DPA, but did we meaningfully control the risk?